Nick Caserio speaks. Is his easiest work actually ahead of him? Deserves credit for it, but is the hardest part actually ahead? Plus, the man himself speaks. Camp overreactions, mini camp overreactions, and stuff going on the internet that's just kind of weird when it comes to the Texans' divisional opponents. Go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room.
It's hard to believe that Nick Caserio has been the Texans GM for just 3 years. It seems like it's a long road. It seems like you got somewhere where you're trying to go a lot quicker than anticipated. And while you can look back and believe that it was a very hard road, it wasn't easy. I mean, it's very rare that you get into a situation where you have a franchise quarterback wanting to get traded. Then you have a franchise quarterback with an abundance of lawsuits against him. You have arguably the best player in franchise history getting his release. And then you have all the stuff that's gone on. David Culley, Lovie Smith, the drama at the end of the 2022 season, and then the CJ Stroud situation. It seems like it's been longer than 3 years. And on the outside looking in, it does seem like it's been a difficult task for Nick Caserio. But I do wonder, has it actually been a lot easier than it gets credit for? That's not to minimize it, but has it actually been a lot easier, and is the more difficult stuff ahead? It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me right here and perhaps somewhere else relatively soon. You can see me right here as well, typically at 10:30, videos throughout the day. But I want to touch on some of the stuff that Nick Caserio said today. And I did listen to the interview on Sports Radio 610 with Sean and Seth. And let's just be honest. Like, I'm going to listen to Sports Radio 610. If you live in Houston, you're listening to Sports Radio 610 no matter what. And they've developed a relationship with Caserio that is such that it is it's a form of record regardless of whether or not you hear it or not. So there were a few things from Caserio that I thought were interesting. I did hear in crosstalk, because as I said, I listen. I'm not one of these weirdos who's going to like sit here and say, no, I'm never going to, I mean, you listen a little bit. But I did find it weird that in crosstalk, and y'all can go back and listen to this at 155. And this is just speaking as a radio fan and a guy who's been in the business for, I think, a decade and a half now or whatever. I did find it kind of weird that the OG said that they asked him about Caserio, and he said he didn't get to listen to it, but he was going to listen to it at 11. So you don't even know if it was good. You're just going to play the audio at 11 to play it. That's a weird thing to admit for something that the station's been pushing for 2 weeks. I mean, I'm not saying it's like shocking, but thought you would at least BS it. And like, it's one thing if you listen to it and say there's nothing there, but you admitted that you didn't listen to the interview that they've been pushing. He actually said he admitted it to someone in the building, and you're just going to play the audio at 11, not even knowing if it's good audio or not. It's one thing to listen to a presser. That's a little bit crazy to me. But if you go back and listen at 155, it's literally admitting, no, I didn't listen. But I'm going to play the audio at 11. That's kind of weird to me. I don't know if you respect what you do and if it's a top priority. Could be fifth though on the list though. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'll just get into right off the top before we get into if Caserio's most difficult work is ahead. I want to talk about the three things that Nick Caserio said that stuck out the most to me. And if y'all heard anything, let me know. Again, not some weirdo who's going to sit here and act like I don't listen to the interviews and stuff. It's meaningful. The most meaningful interviews are there. The listeners listen live, and I think the host should probably listen to it too. That's just me though, especially if it's 2.5 hours before showtime. Just me though, different strokes, different folks, different ways to do things. Takeaway one from Nick Caserio on 610. I thought this was very blunt, and I thought it was very well said. Kenyon Green is fighting to make this team. this isn't a situation where they're going to try to find a spot for him. I mean, he said straight up, Nick Caserio, first of all, he said he likes the way that Kenyon's worked. Seth, I thought, did a good job of throwing out the analogy of, a statue when it gets unveiled, and sometimes it's not as impressive as you see, but he was impressed with the Kenyon Green body type. Caserio just flat out said he's either gonna play up to par and he's gonna be on the team, or he's not going to be on the squad. I thought that was blunt. I thought that was appropriate. It feels like that's the way that it goes. But yeah, respect to Seth for shouting you out, Landry, for an essential follow. He's an essential follow too. You know that. Me and Seth have argued. He's the man. He prepares. Sean prepares. He's ready to go. That's just what it is. Well, I'll get to some of your questions. Put them in for sure, and we'll get into those. But the Kenyon Green make or break was number one. And we already have the negativity. He's not going to make it out of training camp. We'll see. If he doesn't, he's not going to be on the squad. I think Nick Caserio made that abundantly clear. Now, they don't talk about John Mechie in that manner. It does feel like there's a little bit more margin for error when it comes to Mech. But Kenyon Green, make or break. I think there's underrated competition on the interior of the offensive line. So there's that. Next takeaway from Nick Caserio. By the way, my man brought donuts to the studio. That's kind of messed up, isn't it? You're bringing an array of donuts to the studio, and it was actually a pretty damn good spread. I think Figgy put it up. Figgy, always ready to do what he do, best in the world at what he do. Very proud of him. But Caserio brought in these donuts to the studio. I mean, that's danger right there, especially for a guy who doesn't even eat them. I think that's a little bit that might be dirty work, honestly, by Caserio. Might get him nominated for slime ball of the week. Although I think there is a clear winner for slime off of the week, which we'll get to. But the next takeaway from Nick Caserio during his visit with Sean and Seth was he talked about Nico Collins' extension. And I thought it was interesting how Nico Collins was one of the guys that Nick Caserio, who keeps it close to the vest, no pun intended, more times than not. Nico Collins, he was openly talking about a contract extension with Nico Collins. And he said that the Pittsburgh game was where you really started to see the potential of Nico Collins as a, quote, big money type of guy. And I actually agree with that because I can remember, and I think y'all remember, when the Texans were kind of in that stretch with at the start of the season before they ran off those two games against Jacksonville. Nico Collins, let's just pull up his game log. Just take a trip back in memory lane. Nico Collins there were a lot of question marks about Nico Collins, but we're looking at this game log. The Baltimore game, obviously not great. Indianapolis, it was 146 yards, but I know a lot of it was, I don't want to call it mop-up duty. He did have the touchdown, I think, to cut it to 7, but it was kind of an uphill battle, and they had a big lead, they being the Colts, when Nico and CJ were doing their thing. Then you had the Jacksonville game. They ended up winning that game. That was more of the Tank Dell coming out party, if y'all remember, the dagger, and a couple of other plays. But in the Pittsburgh game, that was where you kind of looked at Nico and said, okay, this might be the dude. The touchdown when they were up 23-6, Bobby Slowick goes in the bag. You remember Nico Collins running on the bottom sidelines. That was kind of the moment. And then there were other moments throughout. There was never like huge statistical outpouring until you got to Denver when Tank got hurt. He stepped it up. I think he had like 56 yards on the second drive when Tank got hurt. And then the Indy game, when it was do or die, was when you really saw it. But I agree with Caserio. For me, like when you started, and I had questions about Nico Collins, I think rightfully so. But when you started to realize, okay, this guy might really have something, I do think it was kind of in that Pittsburgh game. So I thought that was a good point by Caserio. Next takeaway from Nick. God, I have not seen anything like this from a non-former Patriot. We saw him call Danny Amendola a Texan for life. We've heard what he talks about, how he talks about Rex Burkhead. We've heard him talk about Jalen Petrie. But Azeez Al-Shaair, D'Amico, Nick, they all love this dude. Like, they absolutely love this dude. He talked about him wearing, I think, a weighted vest when no one was around. D'Amico has talked about, Christian Harris leaning on him, which is interesting because you would think that maybe Christian after last year would be kind of the guy that the new guys lean on. But I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's actually a good thing when you can bring someone in that's familiar with the system, that the GM loves, that the coach loves. And he's kind of one of the guys that's already a leader to guys that you feel really, really, really good about. So there's that. Those were my three big takeaways. Outside of that, a lot of good chemistry, a lot of good jokes. But from a Texan standpoint, those are the big takeaways. Obviously, he loves D'Amico. Obviously, he loves CJ. He brought donuts. And anytime Caserio's on with those guys, they've done an excellent job of developing chemistry with him. I think it's worth listening to. I don't think it's worth, putting off. So, yeah. Strong recommendation on that. Those were the three biggest takeaways. I want to get into kind of the bigger picture of, and Brandon said he's been watching Azeez and Autry's highlights again last night. Goodness gracious, man. What a party. In all seriousness, that kind of sounds like my type of party. Leroy's asking if JJ Watt is going to play. I have no idea. JJ actually reached out to me, and it was actually pretty cool earlier this week. I made a joke that I would see him on the field in November. I don't know whether he's going to play or not, but he is getting bigger. He does seem to be looking a little bit more like a football player, and the dialogue is there. I do wonder, like when JJ got his release, and he went to Arizona, there's no way that he had any amount of, I don't want to call it hope, maybe foresight is the word. Not always good with words, but I don't think in his wildest imagination he imagined that the Texans would be where they were right now. And quite frankly, to get here, I don't think it would have been in the best interest to have JJ there. But if you would have told JJ, hey, you can step away from the Texans for a couple of seasons, and they'll be a dark horse contender with a potential franchise quarterback, some of the best weapons in the league, a coach that you admire, and a lot of talent on defense, I don't think he would have believed you. So I do think that it's kind of a little bit of a possibility. Now, skipping training camp, that's another thing for sure. Do I think he's going to play? Would I bet on it? Probably not. Would it shock me? Definitely not. But who knows? There is a lot of smoke there, and you can see that JJ Watt is definitely looking more and more like a football player. Subscribe, like, right along. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. Be sure to put what you took away from Nick Caserio with Sean and Seth, and you can also tell me if what I'm saying here is dumb, or if you agree with it or not. For sure. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like immediately after he retired, JJ looked trim and fit. So he was clearly working out. What are you bulking up for? No doubt. What exactly are you bulking up for? Blue Boy's asking, is Jimmy Ward out there? Nobody's out there. They won't be out there till camp, which I think starts the 18th, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's The 18th of July. I don't even know if that's been announced yet. Damn. But yeah, I think it starts the 18th. How effective would JJ be? Injuries and being away from the game include? I don't know. Like, how much are you asking him to do? I think that would be the question. Like, what are you asking JJ to do? I don't think you're asking him to go out there and play 95% of the snaps. You have Will Anderson, you have Daniil Hunter. I think D'Amico, and this will be one of my takeaways in a sec. I think D'Amico likes this D-line. How much are you asking JJ to do? That would be my question. Effectiveness, like if you're telling me that JJ Watt's going in there on third down and rushing the quarterback with Autry, Will Anderson, and Daniil Hunter, let's eat. Let's grub. But I don't think JJ thinks that he's playing 90% of the snaps. I don't think they think that. Last time he was on the field, he was pretty damn effective. So I think he could be effective in that situation. It's not like they're going to bring him in and have him go out there and play 90% of the snaps. With the previous injuries, again, last time we saw him, he was pretty damn good. Yeah, there'll be some training camps open to the public, I'm sure, for sure. I'll be out there some way, shape, or form. I'll be out there, trust me. So we'll keep everything going as well. Front runner says JJ is done. Yes, he is right now. He's retired. That is a fact. Is JJ serious about coming back for real? Don't know. I just know that he's gaining weight. Funny how Mo said no effing way he comes back now. It's him. I mean, you gotta follow the hints, man. You gotta follow the hints. Casario's biggest decisions. Let's go through these. And I'm not minimizing what Nick has done. I think Nick's done an excellent job. And I think Nick, the best thing about Nick is I think his decisions, they're not closed-minded. And I think I never really completely bought into the Patriot way type of thing. I think there's certain Patriot way things that annoy me and certain approaches and delivery that Nick Caserio has that kind of naturally annoys us because we've been through that. But he's kind of shown that he's a little bit open-minded and he's willing to adapt and he's willing to adjust. And I admire that about Nick Caserio. I think it makes the future even more exciting. My thing is this: when you hear people talk about Nick Caserio and you hear like national people talk about it, they talk about, well, he inherited this and, you know, it was one of the toughest situations to be in. I don't disagree. It wasn't an ideal situation. But can you make a case that if you come into a situation that was just terrible, awful, the most dysfunctional thing that we've seen in professional sports with the POS, Bill O'Brien, no future assets, no future draft picks, no coach wants to coach here, no player wants to be here, and you're going to have dead cap. Is that easier than coming into a situation where you have immediate expectations and you're expected to turn things around? In other words, if Deshaun Watson had never demanded a trade, let's say he never demands a trade, and Nick Caserio has the pressure of, with those limited assets, maximizing what he could around Deshaun Watson, wouldn't that have been more difficult than ownership being patient, letting you wait stuff out, no real pressure, process over results, as Caserio like to said? Like, isn't that a little bit easier if you have the trust of your bosses and there's no pressure to really do much? Now, I will say this: if we're talking about Caserio's biggest decisions, the handling of Deshaun Watson, which may have ended up being a blessing in disguise based on what I previously said, the handling of Deshaun Watson was perfect. And a lot of that might have had to do with the legal stuff. Because if there'd been no legal stuff, let's just be honest, perhaps Deshaun Watson gets traded in the offseason of 2021. Then maybe you head into that draft with Mac Jones, who we'll see in a second. Good God, what the hell is he doing? Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. You head into that draft perhaps needing a quarterback. Instead, you had to wait, which I give him credit for. Nick Caserio waited. I know there were a lot of people that said, you got to trade him now. You got to trade him now. He waited it out. He was patient. He waited 2 damn years, and it looks like one of the best trades in recent NFL history and has played out. So I think the handling of Watson was one of Caserio's best things. Now, I do think there's enough credit to go around. I think there's enough credit to say, Well, props to ownership for allowing him to be patient. Props to ownership for having him hang around. I think I think there's credit that is deserved at the top as well. But the handling of Deshaun Watson was definitely one of Nick Caserio's biggest decisions. And I thought he hit it out of the park, especially given the fact there was a no trade clause and he kind of had the situation where they power played their way into Cleveland, I think behind the Texans' back. But that ended up working out perfectly. And Nick Caserio ended up, whether it was easy because ownership made it easy or not, Nick Caserio ended up hitting that out of the park. And the Texans ended up reaping the benefits of that. Next big Caserio decisions, process over results. I supported this. Whether it was hiring David Culley, whether it was hiring Lovie Smith, giving those two guys opportunities that they wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. I thought that Nick Caserio did an excellent job of being patient, getting through the mud, much like we saw in San Francisco where they hired Chip Kelly, they hired Jim Tomsula, and then they get Kyle Shanahan once they kind of get through that mud. I thought Caserio did a good job of overseeing that. And again, it's a situation he inherited. Instead of having pressure to build a contender around Watson, he got to kind of be patient, chill, process over results. I know he took it on the chin from a lot of fans, but I thought that the process over results handling was perfect. David Culley, $30 million. Thank you very much for overseeing this disaster. No one else wanted to do it. Lovie Smith, no one else would even hire you in the NFL to be an assistant coach. Come through, get us through the mud. And then the other big decision, the hiring of DeMeco Ryans, which I've heard kind of the question about, whose decision was that? Whose decision was that? It doesn't matter. It's worked out nice. And he was part of the process. The hiring of DeMeco. I think it's a perfect duo. So the handling of the Watson situation, getting through the mud, aka process over results, and the hiring of DeMeco. I thought that was excellently done by Nick Caserio. I thought those were his three most important decisions. Fourth most important decision, and we got five, using the draft equity early, the early draft equity. First time that Nick Caserio oversaw a draft here, didn't even have a first-round pick. Didn't even have a first-round pick. Didn't even have a second-round pick. Couldn't trade Deshaun Watson. So you kind of tried to have to make chicken salad out of chicken-ish. Did a pretty decent job. Then you get the draft picks. You draft Derek Stingley instead of Sauce. Don't think it's too crazy. Kenyon Green. Next year, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, Tank Dell. Using those draft picks that you didn't have when you first got here and inheriting those draft picks based on the previously mentioned big decision, I think that's something that Nick Caserio also deserves a little bit of credit for, or a lot. And then you have the aggressive trades. Trading up to get Will Anderson, trading back 19 spots to get Stefon Diggs. The aggressive trades, the fifth most important things that Nick Caserio has done. The Will Anderson thing, is Will Anderson going to go from being a Pro Bowl caliber player to an All-Pro? Is he going to be one of those guys that validates being the second pick in the draft? I would bet on it. I'm drinking the Will Anderson Kool-Aid. Now, the one thing I will say about the aggressive trades is, and I'll ask it in the form of a question, are aggressive trades, much like I mentioned earlier, are the aggressive trades more so about the situation, or is this going to be something that we see moving forward? Because I think that the aggressive trades have to do with the fact that because of the decision to wait on Deshaun Watson, you had more draft picks to throw around. I also think there's some progressiveness to the way in which Nick Caserio thinks. Cross-sport comparisons. The Stefon Diggs trade was essentially a three-way trade. I know that there's guys that have come out and said, well, you traded a second-round pick for this. No, it was a three-way trade. I don't even know if they make three-way trades in the NFL. If we were doing a three-way trade and we were to lay it out, it would say at the top, Texans receive Stefon Diggs, pick number 42 from Minnesota. They receive Stefon Diggs from Buffalo, pick number 42 from Minnesota. Vikings receive pick 23 from the Houston Texans. And then the Buffalo Bills receive a second-round pick from the Minnesota Vikings in 2025. That's what that was. The Will Anderson trade, I've seen that compared to the other trades that have been made, like the Julio Jones and stuff. Here's what I say to that. And this is why I'm asking the question, are aggressive trades more about the situation? If you go to a casino, let's say you're going to a casino, or let's say you're going to a grocery store, if you're not a gambler. If you go to the casino and you get comp $200, and let's say you get $200 to take to the tables, or you go to a grocery store and as soon as you walk in, they hand you a $100 gift certificate. Are you going to be a little bit more aggressive at the casino? And are you maybe going to buy some nicer groceries at the grocery store? I would think so. I would think so. So if you have these extra draft picks that you've acquired in the Deshaun Watson trade, you're willing to go up there and get a guy that y'all like, that y'all been discussing about potentially even taking with that number 2 pick, which you took CJ Stroud on. You don't have to decide. If I walk into a grocery store and before I walk into that grocery store, I have $50 and I'm deciding, damn, you know what? I really want to throw down on the grill today, but I don't know. What do I want to go with? Do I want to go with brisket or do I want to go with the steak? I got to decide. Damn. And you're talking to your significant other, or you're talking to your buddies that you're going to do the cookout with, and they're saying, man, I want the brisket. I want the steak. You're going back and forth. You walk in and you get $50, $100 gift card. You're getting both. That's common sense. So you're willing to be a little bit aggressive. So this aggressiveness that we see from Nick Caserio, I think it's more symbolic of something that I like about him. Because some people say, I love that he's willing to be aggressive. I love a guy that's willing to go out there. No, I love a guy that is willing to adjust to circumstances. And that's how I look at the Will Anderson trade. The Stefon Diggs trade, I look at that as CJ Stroud's on his rookie deal. Do they make this trade 3-4 years from now? I don't know. But that's what I like. I like the fact that he's willing to adjust. I think the aggressiveness is more about the situation as opposed to the actual mindset. I don't think that's going to be the same mindset moving forward. Get your comments in. We got the Q&A at the end. But I think those are the 5 biggest decisions Caserio's made. And I think the best thing about him is that he's willing to be situational. But here's my thing. I think, and we'll wrap up this Caserio portion. Again, he was on Payne and Pendergast this morning with Sean and Seth. I thought it was good. I listened to it, I knew I was going to talk about it, so I listened to it. I didn't just play it. That's just kind of me, though. I don't admit to that. That's just preparation before you talk. But I think Nick Caserio's most difficult work is actually ahead. I think the more difficult part is ahead because, and look, some people will hear this, and I know how it is on the internet. I simply asked if Tank Dell could be the number 1 wide receiver. Some people took that as a slight at Nico and Diggs. No, it's about production. Who's going to be the most productive? I don't say this as a slight to Nick Caserio. I mean, it's hard to go through what he went through with Deshaun Watson. Hell, it was hard to cover. I mean, it wasn't fun to cover. You don't sign up for that. You want to have to answer to that. You don't want to have that shadow in the locker room. So I'm not saying that, but I am saying when ownership trusts you, when you're able to be patient and you're able to incorporate a plan and maximize potential assets instead of just getting out of an uncomfortable situation, sometimes that's easier probably than just coming into a situation where you have to make something happen, where you have to turn chicken-ish into chicken salad. Like, let's say let's say Trevor Lawrence gets paid. 2 years from now, he's still the same type of quarterback. Their cap situation's kind of jacked, and a GM has to come in and solve that. That sucks because you have to make it work with that dude and you have limited assets. You were able to go through the mud, and I'm not saying it was easy. It was obviously difficult, and there was a lot of stuff that had to go on. And I think that he did a good job of adjusting to his situations. But I do believe that, not to say that it was easy, I do think the most difficult work is ahead. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Speaking of the comments, Graffin wants to know what jersey he should buy. I think don't get the Homes. The Homes suck. Let's be honest. They're okay. CJ makes them look good. You got to go with the red or the white. I think the white is the best because you can wear it with more stuff. And I also think, this is my theory on the whites, I think it's going to be the signature uniform of this era, because I think a lot of times you're going to have to go on the road and win big-ass games. And I think even when you're watching your team play, there's a little more satisfaction in winning on the road. Those are the road unis. So I think when it comes to this era of Texans football, I think it could potentially end up being the most memorable uniform. Corey, shout out to you, my friend. This is when you find out how Nick operates in a tight box. Before he had free reins and could afford missteps. Now he's getting into narrow tunnel of competing before paying CJ. This is true. Winning CJ would be amazing. And by the way, it would be expensive, which it's going to be no matter what. Nobody's talking about guy here. Pinche Katie, shout out to you. And we save money with picking in the second this year, plus the 3-year, 1-year contracts before you have to pay CJ and Harrison Sting. Yeah, and I don't think you have to pay Sting after this year. I've said this on this channel. Does 1 year of health or one elite year, does that wipe away what we saw the previous 4? I think Sting's going to have to go out there and play 4 years, unless there's like some sort of compromise, no doubt. And if he gets hurt again, maybe you get him in a bargain and you just accept the fact that he might not be out there all the time. We'll get to more questions. But first, I want to give some overreactions, some complete overreactions. You ain't never hate. Swarm. I have 3 overreactions based on minicamp in the offseason alone. And overreactions could end up being right. Overreactions can end up being wrong. But admittedly, we all overreact at times when it comes to getting excited about the squad and getting to see these guys just basically running around, etc. Overreaction 1, and I can't believe I've arrived at this point. This is dangerous territory. Pierce is good to go as RB2. They've convinced me. I see the body transformation. I hear the young man speak. I see their actions. Pierce is good to go as RB2. This is something that I am relatively confident about. Maybe to my detriment. Last year, I was skeptical about Dameon Pierce. I thought maybe he was getting a little bit too much love. And we saw Singletary come in. God bless Singletary. I don't think in a perfect world you want him to be your top back. I'm excited about Mixon, but overreaction numero uno. I think that Pierce is good to go as RB2. Overreaction number 2. You ain't never hate. Swarm. DeMeco loves the D-line. I am convinced that DeMeco Ryans loves this defensive line. Let's hear from the man himself. I'll let you be the judge. This is DeMeco talking about the D-line.
For our team, it's my job to make sure we're always improving our roster and giving ourselves the best chance to go out and compete. So every move that we make, it's geared toward winning games and putting ourselves in an advantageous position. So we want to get as many playmakers as we can, many guys who can get after the quarterback, attack the football, like as much competition as we can get. That's my job to do, and that's why we brought in the guys that we brought in.
I think he loves these guys. I think he thinks these guys are disciplined football players, and I think there is an element to the guys that we saw leave and them not playing within the system. I think there's an element to that. I think he loves the D-line. Pause, I guess. Is that a little bit of a reach of a pause? I don't know, but if it is, I'll take it. I'll give you that. We'll pause that. I said line though, but yeah. So I think he loves this D-line. I know that D-line was like one of the most popular answers when we talked about what are the Texans going to take in the first round or in the second round once they traded back. I'm convinced DeMeco Ryans loves this D-line. I think these interior guys, I think it's basically going to be like hockey. You're going to be rotating those guys in and out. At times, you're going to see them flash. I could see some of these guys just completely surprising you. And on the edge, you're as elite as it gets, and you have the Autry factor as well. Maybe JJ, who knows? But I think that DeMeco Ryans loves this D-line, no doubt. I really, really, really do think that he loves that. So that's overreaction number 2. Overreaction number 3.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
I think Willie's going to go from Pro Bowl to All-Pro. I love Willie Anderson. I've always enjoyed my interactions with him. Look how big he is. I had lunch with John McClain yesterday, and God, he's obsessed with these players' weights. He will not stop. Like, he went on a whole tangent about if CJ Stroud throws for 400 yards, do you want me to sit there and say he threw for 270? I was like, no, probably not. He's like, if the Texans win 11 games, do you want me to say they won 9? I'm like, no, John, what's the point? Well, then why are we saying that Will Anderson weighs 240 pounds when he's 260? These players work their asses off to put on this weight, and I got to see it. I mean, you can see how huge he is right there. But I think Will Anderson, here's him talking about what he put into his first offseason as an NFL veteran. I think Will Anderson's going from Pro Bowl to All-Pro caliber player. I truly believe that. Look at that game face.
Predicting for yourself.
Man, the way I eat, the way I take care of my body, the way I study, really just self-assessing everything that I was doing from last year to this year. And those are the areas that I really want to improve on, getting bigger, stronger, and faster, and be able to, make sure that towards the end of the season, I can last longer. I still got good weight. I still got good playing strength and all that type of stuff. So those have kind of been the things that I've really been trying to home in on and making sure that my body is right and where it needs to be at.
Last week, go ahead.
Along those same lines, how have you seen, the changes that you made throughout the all season?
Shout out to Cody Davis.
Yes, it's been it's been crazy, man. Like,
There you go. Look at that passion.
Like pass rush is so many different things, and you really don't know how to put it all in once until you finally get a chance to talk to other pass rushers and Myles Garrett and Daniil, and working on your ankle flexion, working on your hips, all those different things just to loosen you up to be able to be more bendy around the edge, to be able to open up more moves for you. So for me, that was my biggest thing is working with my ankle mobility, working in my hips, arm strength, grip strength, all those things. So those are areas that I've really been focusing on in this OTA. I've had the privilege to, learn from Daniil and see how he works and try to some of the moves and stuff like that. And they're working because I've learned how to take care of my body and how to do those things to help me turn the corner, how to help me get off blocks, how to help me escape, how to use a long arm and things like that.
He might have 15 sacks. That's I'm telling you. My man might have 15 sacks. Goodness gracious, Will Anderson. Yeah, I'm a big believer. So my biggest overreactions, number 1, Dameon Pierce, RB2, good to go. Number 2, I think DeMeco loves this D-line. Number 3, Will Anderson from Pro Bowl to All-Pro. Those are my predictions. Let me know what your biggest offseason reactions are, and we'll get to those in a sec. Going to get to the comments in a sec, but first I want to focus on the fib of the day. Lying with a purpose can be understandable, but sometimes people just say stuff to say it. Sometimes something is said and then people repeat it, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen this, especially if you're like the millennials or even younger. Hell, maybe even boomers have heard this. I hear a lot of boomers say it. Fib of the day here in the locker room. Right here. Be sure to subscribe, like right along. Fib of the day. Nothing good happens after midnight. What in the hell is that? I hear this all the time. I don't think my grandpa ever said this because that SOB was up till 3 drinking Budweisers and stuff. I know my dad didn't try to tell me this crap. My mom didn't even try to tell me this crap. How can anyone in their right mind say that nothing good happens after midnight? What? Some of the best moments of my life have happened after midnight. Probably I would say probably 31 91.7% of the best moments in my life have happened after midnight. So that is the fib of the day. Nothing good happens after midnight. Absolute joke. Don't know what that is. Gen X, sir. Okay, there you go. Thank you very much for that. So that's the fib of the day today. Nothing good happens after midnight. Get the hell out of here with that. Some more comments before we get to the wacky stuff going on the internet involving some of the Texans AFC South opponents. Corey says, my mom used to tell me that growing up all the time, some of my best memories with my friends have happened after midnight. I would think so. I can relate to that. Let's see. Amir says, JJ, think we need to chill on JJ. I would love to get him back, but the reality, we don't need him right now. Through the season, if we get injuries, hell yeah, we could get 99 back. Look, I don't disagree with you that they don't need him back. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm calling my shot on that. I do see a role for him, a limited role. I don't think he's going to come in and play a large chunk of the snaps. But when a guy's working out 7 days a week, he's bulking up. He's not completely dismissing, kind of having some fun with the possibility of playing football for the Texans. I mean, I think it at least needs to be addressed. I don't know that too many people are like too crazy about it. Pinche says, backwards hat Landry preaching facts for a nice vesting. The backwards hat is weird to me. I hear some folks say like that's like trying to be, dude. I almost feel like the backwards hat is like the token white guy thing at this point, right? Like, isn't it? If you're trying to be cool, wouldn't you have like a flat bill or something like that? And I have a few flat bills. I bend it a little bit. But the backwards hat, for me, it seems soccer daddy. Whenever you hear someone say that, they're either just way out of touch and don't really know what the hell they're talking about, or they're probably, boomer, 60-year-old, whatever type of dude. The backwards hat, that's the guy, that's the soccer pop going there. You couple that Landry top 5 and couple that decline New England from a draft standpoint. Okay. Gotcha. Biggest thing Landry will miss about ITL, shameless OG sauce plugs for sure. There's a lot of plugging going on there. I don't know about that. I used to love that sauce a lot. It was pretty good. Used to. Tyler says biggest strike against Caserio to this day. He considers Jack Easterby a close personal friend, cannot fully trust because of that. Fortunately, he has D'Amico to help him judge character. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. And I take pride in how I covered Jack Easterby. I take pride in exposing his lies. I take pride in talking about my interactions with him, even when I was on the Texans flagship and even when a lot of people might not have been willing to do that. And people in the building have validated that, and they have appreciation for it. And that's why I can live on my feet. He would have had a different relationship with him. Like when Jack was at New England, he was a character coach, whether it was genuine or not, he was a character coach, and he wasn't trying to scheme his way into running the organization. So there's some guys in life that you might have this interaction with, and then other people have different interactions with it. So from Caserio's standpoint, I can a little bit understand that somewhat. And I haven't heard him talk about him in a while. Still crazy people were trading a number 2 to the Cardinals and ended up being a 27. Yeah. Little bit wild. Backward snapbacks. I brought that back. I'll take credit for it. I don't even think that's a thing, dude. We'll get into Xavien Howard. Trust me. That's going to be, he's a slime ball potential, but he's not going to win the, he's not going to win the award. We'll go through some Xavien Howard. I can assure you, but I want to start with this guy. I don't know what in the hell is up with this dude. But Mac Jones, backup quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had the internet going nuts yesterday with this. He took a picture of himself in front of a car And he put, quote, 281-330-8004. What in the hell is that? What has that even got to do with Mike Jones? Are we just going Mac Jones so we say that? This had a lot of people up in arms. Don't know what the hell my man's doing. Although if you put his stats side by side with Trevor Lawrence, it's actually pretty alarming. Actually pretty crazy. But he had the internet going nuts. And we'll get the production going up. Obviously, we did the internet going nuts on In the Loop. One of my benchmark ideas. We'll get the prod up as the daily portion of the stream goes. We're 18 months into this mofo, though. Y'all know that. Next thing that had the internet going nuts. I like my guys at the Titans Coliseum podcast. I know that there's a lot of folks who kind of get a little bit irked by them, but rightfully so. They're a little bit much. They got that country ass Tennessee accent. Much love to them. But this is a little much. And this is from my man RJ. Shout out to RJ. Shout out to all the dudes over there. They put a picture, the Allen Iverson finals picture of CJ Stroud getting stepped over with D'Amico, Stefon Diggs looking on, and Joe Mixon. Here's my thing here. And I know this is a glorified moment. I know this is something that Allen Iverson, one of his highlights of his career. And that game one effort was nice by Allen Iverson. Not trying to minimize it. But the Sixers lost in 5. And I actually think this is pretty symbolic of what the Tennessee Titans are right now. I think this is pretty symbolic of where they are. Because I think there's going to be times where Will Levis has highlight plays, much like Allen Iverson, some of the best highlight plays of our life. And I don't think Will Levis is going to be the caliber player that Allen Iverson is. But I think there'll be weeks where there'll be hot takes about Will Levis. Can Will Levis be the guy, et cetera? But I think in the big scheme of things, he's not going to win at a high level. And he's not going to win at the ultimate level. And there's going to be a shelf life to it. So there might be a crossover here and there. There might be a step over. But when it comes to big games, I actually think this is really symbolic of where the Texans and Titans are. Sixers lost that in 5. Just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. Trolling gone wrong from the Titans, for sure. Let's touch on this Xavien Howard situation. There's been talk about the number 2 corner spot for the Texans. I see some of y'all talking about it in the comments. Gosh Allen, damn it, I said Will Levis. My bad. Gosh Allen. God, shame on me. I'm an idiot. Gosh Allen, my fault. That's a true diehard right there. Shout out to Corey. But Xavien Howard, his latest strange case, and this one's pretty wild. So this is from the New York Post, and a lot of people are acting real crazy about this. But here's the thing. Do y'all even Xavien Howard? Because if you watch this channel, when it was first talked about with Xavien Howard, I told you that this dude has some weird stuff when it comes to his dong getting him in trouble. Here's the latest here. This one's from the Post. Apparently, NFL star Xavien Howard, this is alleged. NFL star Xavien Howard shared revenge porn photos with victim's minor son in a lawsuit. Former Miami Dolphins star Xavien Howard allegedly shared explicit photos and videos of women, even texting the sexual image of one victim to her son because she refused to get an abortion, according to a lawsuit. The 2 victims, identified as Jane and John Doe, filed a lawsuit in Florida in May, alleging Howard did this. News 10, according to the report. Howard started seeing her in 2016, began an exclusive relationship with her, but ended the involvement in July. Upon ending the relationship, Jane Doe received an Instagram message from a third-party female claiming the photos, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people see this and they think it's crazy. And again, this is not to say that he's been guilty, but let's just go back and look at some of the Xavien Howard past headlines. There was the sex video accuser right here. Before Xavien Howard says the woman who accused him of filming sex acts without, this is last year, without her consent, attempted to shake him down for cash before going public with the allegations. So that's one of the past. Here's another one that was wild. He was at one point, let me just type this in. At one point, he was accused, Xavien Howard, this is an old Bleacher Report, says he knowingly gave her an STD. So Xavien has found himself in trouble quite often with some strange things. Now, does this mean that the Texans won't go bring him in? I don't know. I mean, this is a lot of situations. This is a lot of smoke. This is a lot of things. So who knows? But just a little something else to think about as we're talking about, the Texans' number 2 corner spot, and you talk about the potential of Xavien Howard. That's at least going to be on the back of your mind. I think it would at least be discussed. I would love to see those discussions in behind the scenes. I wish the Texans were on Hard Knocks and they were having a Xavien Howard discussion, and you'd see Caserio and D'Amico talking, and then they're talking about him as a player. Maybe he's declining. I don't know. How does he fit into our scheme? And then they're like, well, what about this accusation of sending sex videos? That would be a question. Larry Brady says, I'm a weirdo. Okay. I'll take that, sir. You look like a non-weirdo, my friend. But yeah, Xavier, if you want him added to the roster, I don't know. I mean, is this a big deal? We don't even know if this is true. We have no idea. Does he sound like an energy vampire? I don't know. It's a lot of stuff, though. A lot of crazy, crazy headlines for Xavien Howard. Slime ball of the week. This week's slime ball of the week is the Island Boy, man. The Island Boy. I don't even know much about the Island Boys. I saw they went viral one time, but I saw that one of them, I don't even know his name. One of them was arrested for reckless driving, or he was pulled over. And when the cop asked him for his name, he tried to give the name of his twin brother. That, my friends, is a slime ball. Oh, by the way, I think there's videos of these guys kissing each other on the lips too. Obviously, the love is not that deep if you're trying to give your brother's name, twin brother's name, for reckless driving, according to the report. That's the slime ball of the week. I know some of y'all have some other votes. That's my vote right there. That's my vote for the slime ball of the week. I think that's a little bit crazy. Don't know what that is about. I don't know what y'all are talking about, islands and all that type of stuff. I'm ignoring you on that. I have a confession, and there's a new element. I'm actually having a brainstorming session with Cody Stutes tomorrow. We're going to talk about some stuff that we're going to do during the season. We were going to do this. He was going to come through and do that anyways. But we're going to try to add a gambling element and a fantasy element to our Texans coverage. And my confession is this: I think football is the only sport worth betting on. I think it's the only sport worth betting on. Basketball, it could be fun. I've lost by half a assist or half a rebound now on multiple parlays. Yesterday, I just needed a half an assist for Jaylen Brown to hit on a sixer. Rudy Gobert, half a point earlier on. I'm starting to think you should bet during football season, and then you should just take some time off. Because the crazy thing about it is, whether you're betting 5, whether you're betting 100, the loss hurts no matter what. So I'm starting to think football is the only sport worth betting on. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Let me know if you have any more comments. I'm not betting on baseball. You can do that, Pete Rose. I'm not a big fan of the baseball betting. doesn't really do it for me at all. Not even a little bit. I'm just not a big fan. Is there a Vegas line on JJ Watt returning? I doubt it. Maybe. Might be able to find it. Am I going to have Lisa Ann on to give fantasy sleepers? Probably not. I know that's Sean and Seth. They have her on Friday, if I believe. I normally listen to it. I don't play it when I come in. Listen to it. Corey says, wholeheartedly agree. Other sports give me heartburn. I have extra gambling to T-Mill. T-Mill's crazy. T-Mill will send me like his picks. He actually has a bet he sent me this week. I guess he took like a long shot on Porzingis being finals MVP, which I guess through one game looks pretty decent. I mean, I don't know if you'd consider him the MVP of yesterday or not, but I mean, I think the odds were insane for that. But yeah, he likes to bet. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Nick Caserio, is the hard work ahead? Is it behind him? Do you agree with what the strengths are of Nick Caserio, his ability to adjust? What is your biggest overreaction heading into camp now that the large chunk of the non-training camp offseason is behind us? Again, mine, D'Amico loves the D-line, Damian Pierce, RB2, and Will Anderson, all-pro caliber. Also, let me know what you think about Xavien Howard. Would you hold it against someone for doing all the things that Xavien Howard has been accused of, or would you be willing to roll the dice? Appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like, ride along. Check out that interview with Sean and Seth. I thought it was pretty good. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, really in life, we're all in it together. And my God, what a week it's been. Gosh, I love it. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.